Hello, my name is Denika Carothers. I am the CEO and founder of Live with Purpose Coaching. I'm also a mental and emotional wellness specialist and life coach.
Hello and welcome to Obehi podcast. I'm your host, Obehi A14, and I strongly believe that everyone has a story to share. Now let's get started with this episode.
And what I really help you to do is to get to the root core issues of your mental and emotional traumas because every symptom has a root. And we're talking today about emotional wellness, Obehi, and a lot of people don't understand. They have the feelings that they feel, they're experiencing what they're experiencing, but they don't take the time to understand where this stuff came from. And so, as you know, I'm all about letting the shit go, and shit is an acronym that I have coined for shame, hurt, insecurities, and triggers. And our emotional well being is always an extension of what we have experienced in our relationships.
All right. For those of us who are going to follow to the end of it, we are going to see how Denika is going to talk about not longer relationship, but relationship. That is at the end of it. We are coming to
Yes. Thank you, Obehi. We're coming to that.
We are coming to that.
And they want to stick around to hear about that.
Definitely. That is why we are here. All right. Now, emotional awareness. Now, can you give us a little background of that so that people can have something to hold on to, and because that is going to dominate the conversation to the end of it. Please go.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think it's important for people to understand, what emotional wellness is and why we should be seeking for it. And emotional wellness is simply just having an awareness or an understanding, more specifically, an acceptance of the way that you're feeling, and also have an ability to be able to manage your challenges and change effectively, right? And we're going to have challenges throughout our life. We're going to have changes, experience changes throughout our life. And so many people resist change, unfortunately. And it can mess with you emotionally when you are in resistance to change because, like Tony Robbins says, progress is optional, but change is inevitable. The challenges and changes, they occur throughout our life. We cannot get through this life without experiencing pain, right? And so emotional traumas create emotional wounds, which leave emotional scars. And there's no way to get through life without pain and scars. But what you do with it, what focus you give to it, how you choose to move beyond your life experiences that contribute to the emotional traumas and the emotional pain is very important. And if you learn how to do it well, then you can achieve emotional wellness.
Are there maybe types of emotional awareness that people should be aware of?
Well, it's really just being aware of your emotions. Emotions are a key aspect to who we are, and our emotional health is influenced. It's influenced by our relationships, it's influenced by stress, by society, by culture, by what we are experiencing in our physical body, right? And also, it's important for people to understand that you can be healthy emotionally, but it doesn't mean that you're not going to feel emotional. It doesn't mean that you're not going to have your feelings, like maybe sadness, every once in a while. As a matter of fact, personal story that happened to me 2 days ago. I'm currently listening to Viola Davis's book, Finding Me. Excellent book. And I'm so happy that she's narrating it because her voice is so powerful. But, she was talking about an experience that she had when she had an abortion in this relationship. And this relationship, was a 7-year relationship. And I had an abortion when I was 16 years old. And I've done a lot of healing on the other side of that because I was scarred from that experience for a while. But I've done the inner work, and I can honestly say that, I'm beyond the emotional pain of that. But as I was listening to her story, I'm in my car and I pulled up to the grocery store to go get me some fruit for my smoothie. And as I'm listening to her story, I'm just starting to weep in the car. And I had a towel in there from the gym and I have my face covered and I'm just crying into this towel. And I'm like, what is going on? Where is this emotion coming from? Because I know that I've, moved past, you know, the regret of the abortion. And as I was listening more and more to her story, talking about the relationship that she had with this guy with whom she had gotten pregnant, I some stuff started to come up for me with regards to my first boyfriend, who was the father of the baby that I aborted. And I literally, he's passed on. He was killed when he was 24 years old. And so there was all of this stuff that was coming up, and I literally had a conversation with him in the car, right? So, I feel like I'm very emotionally well. I do a lot of work around emotional wellness, but I was very emotional. And so I think it's important for people to understand that because, you're healthy emotionally, like how you're healthy physically, it doesn't mean that you're not going to experience some pain, some emotion. And as things come up for you, though, it's important for you to deal with it. Do not ignore your feelings.
That is a key word there. Do not ignore your feeling. That is very powerful. Why do you think you were drawn in so deeply when Viola Davis was speaking? Why do you think you were so connected to her?
Oh, thank you for giving me an opportunity to tell the story on that. I know exactly why. I don't live with regrets in my life. I choose not to. It's very easy to live with regrets if you allow your thoughts to take you to that place. And I choose not to live with regrets. But I can honestly tell you that if I had an opportunity to do anything over again in my life, I would definitely do that relationship over, because I've had thoughts, many times, like I said, he was killed when he was 24. Our relationship ended. I was about 19 years old. We were still very good friends, though. And I often wondered, if I had made some different choices with regards to that relationship, would he still be here? Would my life have been different in terms of relationships? So, I'm still very connected to the emotion of that relationship in a healthy way. Because I believe this is another thing, Obehi. I believe that all of our relationships serve a purpose. And when we give ourselves an opportunity to understand the different experiences and situations that we've experienced in our life, understand it from a place of what is good about it, um, the purpose that it served rather than staying steeped in the pain, I think we give ourselves an opportunity to live a life that has more meaning. We're not looking for the bad in everything, but we're trying to understand what the benefit was for us. And that relationship and my connection with him, even after he passed, um, is a big part of my purpose, is a big part of what I do. As a matter of fact, I became let me put it this way. I started my path to becoming comfortable with my spiritual gift on the other side of his passing. But the love that I had for him is still very real and still very present for me some 32 years later.
All right. So you were because I can see that this is deep in you, because somebody is talking because of what the person is saying. It sort of help you connect back to your inner self. For the fact that you were shedding tears, mean that this is something deep in you, no? How old were you at this time that this situation happened to you? That you recall when you were listening to Vala Davis' speech. Help me understand that moment, that time.
Well, I went back actually to when I was 16 years old, when I had the abortion. And oh, Behe, you got me being real transparent with you this morning. So I said that I did have a conversation with him. So I'll just tell you a little bit about the story. So when I got pregnant for him, I had just graduated high school. Actually, I believe that I got pregnant on the night of my prom. And he had come back from my prom. When he graduated from high school, he was 2 years older than me. He went to the United States to join the United States Air Force because he was actually born in America. And, when I found out I was pregnant, he wanted me to have the baby. At 16 years old, I couldn't even imagine having a child. And I couldn't imagine leaving my mother because he wanted me to come and live with him in North Dakota. And I was like 16. I was 16. I couldn't imagine none of this stuff happening. And I said to him, I said, no, I can't do that. And I can't have this baby because I don't need people looking at me and talking about me. My family was very well known. So I was really caught up in what people would say. And this is what we do when we are not emotionally healthy. It's as an extension of what we've experienced with other people, and we allow what other people have done to hold us hostage, right? And so one of the things he said to me, he said, if you love me, you will have this baby. You had to have known me when I was 16 years old to appreciate that that did not go over very well. I didn't do ultimatums well, and I still don't do ultimatums well. And so of course I had the abortion. So when the emotion came up for me when I was listening to Viola Davis's audiobook, what came up for me in that moment was how he felt and how I had contributed to how he felt. And so I spoke out loud and I said to him, I apologize for what I took from you. Because we weren't having a conversation about me having this baby. I made this decision. But I had to acknowledge at 54 years old, having this thought and this coming up and this emotion, that I took something from him as well as taking something from me. And so in that moment, as I apologized, I really felt a release and a clearing. It's pretty
Thank you for that.
powerful.
Yeah, indeed it is. It is
Yeah,
very powerful. But
yeah.
anyway, what actually I asked you that question was because I'm trying to understand if maybe what we do when we are still young, because you are 16, no? That was quite young age. That is, you were quite young at the time, no? Having to pass through that experience, and of course, you still remember, and you have lived through it. Of course, you have matured, and I want to believe that you are also using it to sort of counsel other people who are maybe going through the same experience today. That is also one of the good things about life, in that before you can teach something to people, you need to have an experience somehow, no? Because otherwise, how do you know what you are talking about? So all those are really very
Exactly.
important. Look at all of us now, because sometimes we take decisions when we are much younger. We don't yet understand the game of life. We take certain decisions. Sometimes this decision that we take that when we are much younger can come to hurt us when we are older sometime, no? Is there a way that we can know that the decision that we are taking is going to have impact in our life and sort of better prepare ourselves so that we can take the right decision when we are much younger?
That's an excellent question. And my answer to that is no. I believe that as souls, I do a lot of soul work in the coaching that I do. And I believe that as souls, we are here with very specific journeys and very specific paths. And I also believe that everything that we experience contributes to that path, supports us on that path, prepares us for path. And if you're fortunate enough, because not everybody aligns with their purpose, but if you're fortunate enough and willing, it can align you with your purpose. And so that particular experience that I have shared the story of my abortion with many women who have been stuck in the emotion, in the guilt, in the pain, in the sadness of abortions. I have been able to share that relationship with many men and women to assist them in moving through. And you said, I was very young then. Yes, I was. But the feelings for me were very real. And this is what a lot of people don't understand. What we experience as children, as young people, and the emotion that's connected to us can inhibit us for most of our lives if we don't seek healing. And that's why, giving yourself the opportunity to access and to be emotionally well is so pivotal to your emotional well-being, right? Because our emotions affect us. And unfortunately, in our life, we've been conditioned and told what to think. Most of what we think is as a result of what somebody has said, the conditioning, the culture, the experiences, right? But we haven't been taught how to think. And why is this so important? Because our feelings are an extension of our thoughts. Thoughts create feelings. And so, because we haven't been taught how to think, this is the reason why we struggle to manage our emotions and our psychology, or the way that we think, right? And everything is so connected. The mind body connection is so, it's all wrapped up into one, right? However we think, we're going to feel. Whatever we feel is going to create a belief for us. And whatever it is that we believe, that's what we're going to act according to. That's how we're going to show up in our life. And so everything starts with that mind emotion connection. And that is where we have to uproot a lot of what it is that we're dealing with emotionally.
Sometimes we don't know how to think, you know, and this have a lot of effect on us.
Mm-hmm.
How are we supposed to learn this? How to think? Is it something cultural or something that we need to get from formal education? How are we supposed to learn how to think? Now, I'm still looking at people who haven't matured yet now because when you are mature, of course, you don't you know, knowing how to think is part of your maturity. But
Mm-hmm.
when you yet you don't understand this, where are we supposed to know this?
That is an excellent question. And, because most of what we think is because of what other people tell us, right? Remember, when we come into this world as babies, we're a clean slate. We don't have any thoughts, but we do have feelings, but we don't have any thoughts. We're conditioned on what to think. We're told what to think. We're told what to do. We're told what to believe. We're told what is right. We're told what is wrong, right? Now, when I look at me, I was always this child who did not go with everybody else's flow. And so I was called hard headed. I was called stubborn. I was called rebellious as a child. But there were certain things that just didn't work for me. There were certain things that people said, specifically in religion. As a child, I was questioning what I was being taught religiously, but this was my culture, right? The religion, the belief system was my culture, but there were a lot of things that didn't make sense. And so I would question stuff within, because I grew up in the Bahamas, Caribbean, we don't question out loud. But I gave myself permission, I remember at a very young age, to think for myself. And I feel like the time when we're able to tap into the truth of who we are is when we become okay with thinking for ourselves.
Are there also maybe a possibility or a kind of a way for us to measure um, our awareness so that at least we know whether we are actually aware or not, or how much are we aware in our state of awareness? Are there ways to measure it?
Yes, sitting with yourself. The only way you become aware of you is when you take time to sit with you. A lot of people do it through meditation, through reflection. It's important to silence out the noise of the world, and the time that we live in right now, there's so much noise, there's so much going on. Be willing to you know figure out who you are. That's where a lot of people are stuck. A lot of people don't know who they are. They don't know what they want. They know what they don't want because they keep focusing on it, right? But you have to sit with yourself. You have to think for yourself. You have to question and confront your thoughts and your beliefs. That's where it started for me. My whole journey of awakening and becoming aware of self really started with me asking some questions, but more specifically, being okay to unlearn everything that I thought that I knew, especially if it was not the truth. So I feel like you need to sit down with yourself, ask yourself who you are. What do you want? Why do you believe what you believe? That's what I ask myself. Who am I? And ask spirit too. Who am I? That's where it started. Why do I believe what I believe? Where did that come from? Is that my stuff? Is that somebody else's stuff? Just really sitting with yourself and having a heart to heart truth conversation. And if you don't know how to do that on your own, I would recommend connecting with someone like me who does this type of work, who can help you to process who you are at a deeper level. Because again, we have to be willing to check our beliefs, because 95% of our beliefs have come in through conditioning, culture, and experience. And again, your thoughts create your feelings create your beliefs or your attitudes, and your beliefs and attitudes create your actions. So you definitely want to target who you are, how you are, and why you are.
That's very important. Any person who have a sense understand that this is very important in the world that we live in today. Absolutely important.
Yep.
Now, figuring out who you are. How do you explain this one to the amateur, to somebody who is infant in this level, who do not understand what we are talking about here?
How do I explain tapping into who you are to the amateur? Hmm, that is a really good question. Um, I can talk to you about how it happened for me. I started asking myself, "Who are you?" And it really made me. So just to give you a little bit of background on me, my father, I experienced a lot of emotional trauma through my father, specifically how he was with me. My father was very judgmental. I felt rejected by my father so much. I felt like there was nothing that I could do right. He criticized, he judged, something was always wrong. He didn't understand me. I knew that he didn't understand me. I'm grateful for my mother every single day, even today, even though she's no longer with me, because she was kind of like the balancer for me. And I heard so much of, who I was, and I had teachers who would criticize me. But what was key, I had this one particular teacher, and I struggled with this one particular teacher. He would call me a hypochondriac. He would judge me and criticize me a lot too. He was my music teacher, and I took piano lessons with him. And he just seemed to have been around. I even remember his name, Mr. Davenport. And I remember when I graduated from high school, the last parent teachers meeting, he said to my mother, and my mother would always dread, by the way, going to parent teachers meeting because the teachers would always have negative things to say about me. But a lot of it was because I challenged them. I was a very strong-minded child. But he said to my mother, he said, Denika has gained the respect of every one of her teachers. And that impacted me. I remember that to today. That impacted me. What it said to me, Obehi, was that maybe you not as bad as everybody was trying to make you feel like you were. And so I decided to connect to myself, to find out who I really am on the other side of what everybody said about me that was negative or that didn't feel good. And so for me, it really was sitting with myself and being aware of how I thought, being aware of why I thought the way that I thought. I was very defensive as a child, but it's because I was rejected and judged and criticized. So if you're rejecting and judging and criticizing your children, or if you have been rejected, judged, and criticized, you have this tendency to be very defensive because you're very guarded, right? When you're guarded, you're always going to be on the defense. But then I started tapping into how being defensive was making me feel. And I didn't like the feeling. I didn't like the sadness. I didn't like the anger. I didn't like feeling like something was wrong with me. So I really had to check in with myself, Danica. Who are you? What do you want? What matters to you? And why are you the way that you are? And that was the process. And hopefully that helps, your listeners to really kind of tap into it for themselves. It's an individual process. We got to remember that all of our journeys here in this world is individual. Yes, we come together with people for specific reasons. And we can either be propelled by our relationships with other people, or we can be pulled down by our relationships with other people. But I think it's important that everybody understand and become aware of the fact that you always have control over you. And you are the only person who has control over you. And you're the only person you have control over. You don't have control over other people. And so it's important for you to check with yourself. The only way you can have self love is if you connect to yourself. The only way you'll have self value is if you connect to yourself. Self worth, self discipline. You kind of get where I'm going with that.
It is very important that people realize that, no? It is very easy to blame other people for why you are where you are and what you become in life. Yes, other
Mm-hmm.
people do have a role to play in that. The society do have a role to play in that. But you are the driver in this car. Whatever any person say or do, if you do not collaborate with them, maybe even building a vision of you is not going to materialize. So, which means that you are the one that is taking the key decision here. Now, are there consequences of people don't pay attention to their emotional awareness? I mean, why should people even consider doing this?
Um, because I got to be mindful. I give myself permission these days to be very free in my conversation, but I do appreciate that not everybody is there. The reason why it benefits you is because whatever you carry is either going to benefit you or it's going to be a problem for you, right? And if you are not emotionally well, I can tell you right now that it's a problem for you. So let's talk about some things that happen when you are experiencing emotional distress, when you are not well emotionally. Stress. You're stressed out every single day. Everything is wrong. You're very negative in the way you approach life and the way you think about life. You have low self esteem. Emotional distress can cause low self esteem. You feel rejected. Like me, when I was not emotionally well, I always felt rejected. Every time somebody said something about me, I took it as judgment or I took it as criticism. You're very pessimistic. You're looking for everything to be wrong. People who say, oh my god, if it isn't one thing, it's another. That's somebody who is emotionally distressed. You also have a tendency to be very codependent in your relationships. So if somebody is not there, you don't even know how to function. You decide who you are based on what other people do and what other people say about you. It's not a good place to be in. You can be overly worried. You're always in a place of worrying about this, worrying about that. And what people don't understand about worry is you are creating the very experience that you don't want to have because you're continuing to focus on it. You can also be dealing with anger when you're emotionally distressed, sadness, depression, also anxiety, right? These ain't good feelings. These keep you off kilter. These make you feel unbalanced. They make your life feel unhappy. And so seeking for emotional wellness is to your benefit because then you can have peace. You can be experiencing a feeling of love because your love is not dependent on how other people are with you, how other people interact with you. Your love is based on how you feel about yourself. But peace is one of the prizes of emotional wellness. And for me, it's the greatest prize.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. All right, now, Darinka, because you work with people, you work with a lot of people within the topic that we are talking about today, which is emotional awareness. Do they tell you why they suffer from this problem? That they need your help to help them out in order to straighten out their well-being?
Well, no. And that's why they come to me, right? Most people come to me aware of how they're feeling, aware of what's not working, aware of what they want to be different, but they know. Very few people are aware of where it comes from because, again, people really just don't think about how did this happen. People focus more on symptoms than they do on the problem, on the root core cause of the issue. So when my clients come to me, I end up telling them, like a doctor does, right? You come with the headache and you talk about the symptoms to the doctor, and then the doctor can identify through a series of tests, right? Through a series of processes, what is the underlying problem. So clients come to me, most clients come to me who are sick and tired of being sick and tired. They recognize that something is off. They have an idea of what it is that they want to accomplish. And then we come together, we work together and uproot everything that is not serving what it is that they desire to accomplish in their life. And that's what a lot of people don't understand. When you are still stuck in the past, when you are still stuck in what other people have done to you, when you make your life and what's not working in your life about other people, what you're really doing is not being in control of your life. You're giving the power of your emotions, the power of your feelings, the power of your experiences to other people. It's like being held hostage. It's really what it is. It's like being held hostage. You don't have freedom because all these other people are keeping you bound. And I say that freedom is when you're no longer attached to a thing, but liberation is when you're no longer bound to a thing. And a lot of people are free, but they're not liberated. They're still bound. And a lot of people, I work with a lot of relationship coaching now. I have a lot of couples who are coming to work with me. But you have people on the other side of a relationship who I work with as well, and they're free. They're no longer in this painful, stressful, hurtful, broken, terrible relationships. They're free, they're divorced, but they're not liberated because emotionally they are still bound to every experience they had with this person. And so we got to work towards liberation because that's where the true freedom comes in.
How are we supposed to work towards that liberation? Because I believe that a lot of people are looking for that freedom, both to be free and also to liberate themselves. How do we approach that?
Well, I'd say the first step is recognize and be honest about where you are. If you don't feel free, if you feel angry, you're not free. If you feel depressed, you're not free. If you feel anxious, you're not free. If you feel sad, you're not free. If you're in victim mode, you're not free, right? So you first have to become aware of where you are. And then you have to be willing to let the shit go. Let the shame, the hurt, the insecurities, and the triggers go. Everything that is not serving your well being, you have to be willing to let it go. So, like, for example, if you go to the doctor and the doctor says that you have diabetes, and you know that you have diabetes because you're swelling, you have inflammation, you're coughing all the time, you're always having stomach issues, and the doctor says, okay, you need to let sugar go, you need to let alcohol go. It gives you a list of things you need to let go of in order to be well, right? So, in order to be emotionally well, there are some things that you need to let go of. It's the same thing, same thing. But most people, they want to be well, but they don't want to do what's necessary in order to achieve wellness. You want to lose weight, but you don't want to stop eating the fast food, and you don't want to get up in the morning and go to the gym or exercise, right? So you have to be willing to let the shit go. You also have to be self-aware, self-aware of the fact that, this is your life. You are responsible for your feelings. You got to take responsibility for your emotional well-being. It is your responsibility. It's not somebody else's responsibility. Understand that nobody has any power over you other than the power that you give them. I feel like it's also important to understand who you are, what makes you happy, and what matters to you. In order to be emotionally well, you have to start tapping into you. What matters to you? This is your emotional wellness, like physical wellness. If you don't feel well in your body, your responsibility to yourself is to do what you need to do in order to achieve health, right? And one of the things that I found really works is being grateful. You can look at everything that's wrong, you can highlight it, you can talk about it, you can focus on it, or you can choose to find the things in your life that are working. It's one of the questions that I ask clients when I first begin to work with them, because I have them fill out a pre-questionnaire. So I pretty much know what's wrong. But the first question I ask them when we get on our first call is, tell me what's working in your life right now. And they pause. They always pause because very few people think about what is good. And so you can't be grateful when you're not thinking about what is good. But when you're thinking about what is good, it makes you feel so much better.
Absolutely. That feeling is very important. I think we have said it a number of times here. Embrace your feeling. It is true because it's a signal of who you really are. It is important. All right.
Absolutely.
Now, Denika, I'm going to ask you something. Do you think the fact that a lot of people are not even aware of their emotion, their emotionally stress and all the things that make up of our life today is a product of the time that we are living in? Or is there anything that we can look back to and say, okay, people have always been like this?
Absolutely, I do believe so. Absolutely, there's so much that's going on, and that's why it's important for people to be aware of how they're feeling, to be aware of what's contributing to the feeling, and also to be willing to disconnect from it. There's a lot of noise, like me. I don't watch the news. I have not watched the news for almost 30 years. I choose not to watch the news because they never talking about nothing good, And faith comes by hearing, but so does fear, so does worry, so does anxiety, all the things that you hear about. I'm very intentional about what I plug into because everything is energy, and we feel certain feelings and emotions based on what's happening energetically, right? And so energetically right now, there's a lot of negativity, like here in Texas. Couple of weeks ago, it was a mass shooting in an elementary school. And I actually heard a story yesterday and I started to feel emotional. The father was talking about his 10-year-old daughter being killed and he doesn't understand why she was killed. And then he goes on to say, she just had her birthday 2 weeks before she was killed. She became 10 years old. So, you hear all of that stuff, and I'm a mother, right? So you feel that sort of stuff. I'm an empath, and so I feel energies very strongly. And so my responsibility to myself is to not plug into all of that stuff, because I am very aware of how that kind of information makes me feel, right? So, you have to shut it down. I know people who sit in front of the TV and watch CNN all day, every day. Well, Jesus, if all they talking about is negative stuff all day, dang, how you expect to feel other than negative, sad, mad, and frustrated? But again, Invictus, there's a quote from Invictus that says, I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul. And, so I liken it to a boat. So if I have a boat, I'm responsible to maintain that boat. I'm also responsible and have control over who I allow to come onto that boat. If I maintain that boat, if I give that boat what it needs, then I can jump in that boat at any time and I can enjoy the water. I can enjoy being out in the elements, because I love water, right? But if I don't maintain that boat, if I allow any and everybody to come on that boat, there's too much weight on the boat. The boat starts to sink or take on water. I have to take responsibility as the captain of that boat for what I allow on that boat and what I do to maintain that boat. If we can look at ourselves as the vessel, we only got one body, we got one mind, we got one soul, we got one spirit, we got one heart. Our responsibility is to take care of that. I can't expect you, Obehi, to have more value in me, than I do in myself. That's ignorant, right? I have to value me so that I can tell you what I need in order to be valued, or for this value to be maintained, for me to hold my value and worth. So again, Michael Jackson, I often wonder what Michael Jackson would be singing about if he was still here. But Michael Jackson left a very powerful message for us all. I'm starting with the man in the mirror, and I'm asking him to change his ways. And no message could have been any clearer. And I change it up a little bit. I say, if you want to make your world a better place, take a look at yourself and make the change. If you're not happy with your life, if you're struggling emotionally, there are some changes that you need to make. And you're not making them for anybody else. You're making them for the benefit of yourself.
Wow. I like everything that you said, but I never knew that you were also a good artist. You could sing very well. Come on, that was beautiful, though. That was awesome.
Thank you. That's one of my little hidden, not so hidden secrets. I will bring out into a song.
That was really awesome. Thank you for that.
Thank
So, were
you.
you singing at a point in your life?
Hmm?
Were you singing at a point in your life? Were you an artist who's a musician at one point?
I was not an artist, but yes, I did sing. My father actually was a was a music producer. He owned a recording studio, and he also was a recording artist. My sister was a recording artist. So I grew up in the recording studio. I was in the choir in school. I was choir director um, in church. I was praise and worship leader in church in my past life. So yes, I did grow up singing.
No, you really do have the voice. Okay, I'm not an expert in music, but I know I know when I feel something good that I listen to. That is really one of it.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
All right. Now, when we talk of emotional awareness, sometimes we also talk of emotional intelligence.
Hmm.
Uh, Are they actually about the same thing here?
No, they're different. Emotional intelligence. So if you think of someone who is intelligent, someone who is very knowledgeable, right? Who knows things. So emotional intelligence is being emotionally aware. That's for me what emotional intelligence is. Emotional wellness is being able to handle the stuff that you are aware of. That's how I'll put it simply. I believe in being very simple. So emotional wellness gives you the ability to really successfully be able to handle life, to handle the stresses, the challenges, to be able to process the difficulty. So, when you think about someone who's intelligent, they're able to process things, difficult difficult situations, they're able to, handle different things. So for me, that's what the difference is.
Oh, right, that's powerful. Now, are there some factors that might help one to better profit from emotional awareness? I mean, some factor that might contribute to it.
Oh, things that you can do in order to be better, to be more well emotionally? Absolutely. Well, first of all, and this worked for me, acceptance. What is the Alcoholic Anonymous, their prayer? I love it. Lord, help me to accept the things I cannot change, right? There are some things that you will have absolutely no control over. And there are things that you can have control over, except that, you know what? I don't have to be bothered with the things that I cannot effect change in, but you can always effect change in yourself. So acceptance, accepting people how they are. It doesn't mean that you have to be in relationship with them. It doesn't mean that you have to have anything to do with them, but accept that everybody has the right to do whatever the hell they want to do. Accept that there are certain things that are just going to happen in life. You don't have to participate in it if you don't want to participate in it. Yeah, things happening in the world all the time, Obehi. I don't watch the news because I'm choosing not to participate in all of the stuff that's happening in the world, right? So I feel like acceptance is key. I also feel like positivity and optimism, they help you to achieve emotional wellness. You can either see the glass half full or you can see the glass half empty, but however you see it is what your experience with it is going to be. So, choose to be more positive, choose to be more optimistic in life. Don't be a person who goes through life expecting things to go wrong, because guess what? Whatever you expect, you will experience. If you expect things to always be going wrong, if you expect to take 2 steps forward and 10 steps back, then that's going to be your experience every single time. This is also key. Learn how to establish boundaries, not just for other people, but also for yourself. Establishing boundaries. And with that, being okay with saying no, or learning how to say no, because so many people say yes to other people, but at the expense of saying no to themselves. So if I am going out every night with you and I'm tired, if I'm eating all of the bad food that you're eating and I feel physically sick, I'm saying yes to you enjoying me doing these things with you, but I'm saying no to myself. I'm saying no to my health. I'm saying no to my well being. Learn how to say no. That is very powerful. It's been very powerful for me. Also, be mindful of what matters to you. Be mindful of what matters to you, what's important to you. So many people, and especially women, because we've been conditioned to be this way, put so much importance in other people's stuff and neglect themselves, neglect what's important to them. That's why most of you don't know what you want, because you're so focused on giving everybody else what they want, you haven't given time to yourself. Movement and exercise. I one of the ways that I show me love every single day is by working out. Movement and exercise is key to emotional wellness, right? Also, spending time in nature. Everything is connected. We're a part of nature. We're in the earth. We come from the earth. Spend time in nature. you know get a pet. My son, I was talking to him yesterday, and he's going to get this puppy, and it's some wolf hybrid. It's this huge, Jesus, like is a puppy and it looks like a full bred dog. And I was kind of like, but does your lifestyle really lead to you having a puppy? Because they're like children. You got to take care. And you know what he said to me? He said, Mommy, I need something that is going to require me to be responsible, and I need something to love. and to put some energy into right now. That was perfect for me. I was done with that conversation. He was very aware of why he was getting this dog. He was getting this dog to support his emotional wellness, his emotional well being. And so I totally respected that. Also, take deep breaths. People don't understand how we are connected to the breath. The breath is our life. So take deep breaths. When you start to feel stressed, this one of the things I do with my clients, I do breathing exercises with them. Breathing is so important. Take deep breaths in order to center yourself. Celebrate your wins. Celebrate your accomplishments. Don't what's the word? Don't diminish what you achieve and what you accomplish. If you're on a weight loss journey and you get on the scale and it says that you lost 2 pounds, rather than saying, "Oh my God, I only lost 2 pounds," celebrate your 2 pounds. Celebrate your 2 pounds. So celebrate your accomplishments. And then also social connections is a big thing too, because we're not created to be alone. And when you isolate yourself, you tend to feel really depressed, really stressed out. You know, have and I don't believe in having a whole bunch of people around you, but have one, definitely one. Try to have at least two amazing people that you can socially connect with. People who will be there to support you when, life doesn't feel up to you. You have somebody who you can lean on. You can tell them what you're going through so that they can hug you, they can pray with you, they can tell you everything is going to be all right. One of the things that's important for me is they can hold space with you. They can hold space with you, pray for you, you know, encourage you. These are some of the things that you can do to begin to achieve emotional wellness.
Thank you so much for that. And I like the fact that you concluded with this idea of having a relationship. It is very important because we're not really supposed to be alone in this world. Life is not supposed to be like that. Even animals don't live alone. They live in group, in relationship, no? All right. Talking of relationship, I remember in the beginning, we did say that we're going to talk about relationship instead of relationship.
Yes.
So, Danica, I want you to explain something to me for that. What do you mean by that? Because we did make mention of that before we even started to record.
Well, one of the programs that I'm offering right now, and I highly recommend for everybody who, is dealing with any shame, hurt, insecurities, and triggers, because this stuff comes on the other side of relationships. So I have a program that I'm running right now, Clean Up Your Relation Shit. Because again, all of our shit, if you follow me, and if you don't, follow me on Instagram, follow me on Facebook, I'm on YouTube. I talk about some really good things. I do lives on a regular basis where, we interact and you can ask me questions. But all of our shit came in through relationships. All of our shame, hurt, insecurity, and triggers came in through relationships. And when we're still bound in the pain or the disappointment or the stress or the failure or what the person did in the relationship, we continue to be emotionally bound to all of those negative things. So, the same way you got to clean the shit out your toilet, because if you don't, it's a stinky mess, it's a funky mess, it's a nasty mess. There are times when you need to go through your relationship and clean it up. You need to identify all of the shit that came in your relationships, the shame, hurt, insecurity, and triggers. Face it, own your part in it, because no relationship ever goes bad because of just one person. Two people in a relationship, two people contribute to either the success or the demise of the relationship. And there are many different factors that contribute to a demise of a relationship, right? And what this program is going to help you to do is going to help you to come face to face with yourself. What is it that you're carrying? But it's also going to help you to come face to face with the truth of your relationship. So you might be in a relationship right now, a relationship that is full of shame, hurt, insecurities, and triggers. You're triggered throughout this relationship. Sometimes you need to discard what is broken. Everything that's broken cannot be fixed and don't need to be fixed, because sometimes trying to fix something is more trouble than it's worth. It's going to cost you way more to fix it than it would have cost you to get you something else, right? So we're going to help you to really come face to face with where you are in your relationship, first and foremost with yourself, because your relationships with other people are always an extension of the relationship that you have with yourself. Help you to identify where you are with yourself. what it is that you're holding on to that is not supporting what you want to accomplish in relationships. And I will teach you and show you how to let the shit of your relationships go. It's time to clean up some things, man. It's time, it's like me coming to your bathroom, Obehi, and I'm talking about how dirty your bathroom is. I'm like, why Obehi don't clean this toilet? And he got this ring around this tub. But when I come home to my toilet, it's dirty. And my bathtub don't just have a ring around it and have a mudslide on the side of it. We so focused on what other people are doing in their life, what's happening with other people, that we're not taking the time to clean up what we need to clean up with ourselves. And when you can pinpoint everything that's wrong with somebody else and you got that times 3, then what you're doing is you're going through life being a hypocrite. And people see through your falsity. So you need to be real with yourself. Identify your shit, your relationship, the other shit that you're dealing with. Come face to face with it. Own your part in it. Own how you participated in creating it. And then acknowledge, you know what? Okay, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to experience some changes. I want something different. So let me figure out what I need to do in order to have a different experience. And it's always possible to have a different experience.
I love that. It's always possible. There is a possibility. You don't need to remain where you are. There is a way out. Thank you so much, dear Denika.
That's right.
Now, what would be your final thought here? Because we have talked about different things within the sphere of emotional well-being, emotional awareness. So conclude it in your own way with a message that you think is going to be important.
Emotional wellness, your emotional wellness is your responsibility. Nobody is responsible for your happiness. No one is responsible for your wellness. You are the only person who is responsible for that. And the reason why you want to take ownership of that is because if you allow your emotional wellness, your mental wellness to be somebody else's responsibility, or somebody else has the power to give that to you, you also give them the power to take it away from you. So own your stuff. Come face to face with how you have participated in the creation of the things that you're experiencing that might not make you feel very well right now. Choose something different and then make a decision to do whatever is necessary in order to be able to accomplish it and take the action to becoming emotionally and mentally well and physically well.
This is powerful. It's really, really powerful. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Obehi. I appreciate you. And I love having conversations with you.
Thank
You become one of my favorite conversations persons.
That is why we're here. And I like that. I like to hear that.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. If you enjoy this podcast, make sure you subscribe so you never miss any of our future episodes. Rate and review Obehi podcast and share with your friends who might need it. I remain Obehi Ewafo. Thank you so much for listening and talk to you in the next episode.